What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? We're here live at Showcase Comic-Con still. We've been here all weekend, and with me right now, owner of Omega Level Toys
and Comix.
Although
the Comix is very much understated. We are much more a toy store. That's kind of what we focus on.
It's an awesome, amazing toy store. I've been there. It's a great toy store. This is Mr. Travis. Give yourself a full introduction.
Yes, Travis Hotard, owner, operator, founder of Omega Level Toys and Comix. Vendor here at Showcase Con 3. I was at Showcase Con 2. I was at Showcase Con 1. I am a lifer.
Very much ingrained. So I've kind of been asking everyone this weekend, where's the genesis of your hobby, your passion, the genesis of Omega? Where does that come from?
So do you want the genesis of Omega, or do you want the genesis of my collecting? Because they're two different stories.
Oh, okay. So then collecting leading into into the store.
Collecting, as far back as I can remember, I had Masters of the Universe action figures. I had a few Secret Wars, a few superpowers. I guess I'm dating myself in age because I had those when I was a kid. Doom's Tower, and then I've got a younger brother. So just as I was probably getting to that point where I would have gotten out of toys, he's 6 years younger than me. He came along. He played with my old toys, and then we went into Ninja Turtles and the old Toy Biz Marvel stuff like that. So I've always had some of this, but the true moment where I can look back on life and say my collecting started was in junior high. 7th grade, 8th grade American history class. I'm a 40-year-old man now, so I can go ahead and say it. I was bullied a little bit.
Yes, can relate.
Yeah. So I walked into class one day, guy punches me in the stomach just for no reason, knocks the wind out of me, and he takes a stack of cards and he shoves them at my chest, and he's like, take these, go sit down, don't tell the teacher. So I go to my desk and I'm kind of hiding my face because I don't want to get him in trouble because he just threatened me. And I start looking through the cards, and it's the 1991 Skybox X-Men trading cards. It's the first series. Okay. Missing one card out of the entire series. It was an Archangel puzzle card. So I should have been learning about American history. I should have been learning about Civil Wars and things like that. But instead, I was reading that Warren Worthington III comes from this very wealthy family, and he helps fund the X-Men, and Cyclops is the leader of the blue team, and Storm is the leader of the gold team, and it just all just absorbing like aliases and power sets, and I was hooked from then on. And then if that wasn't enough, as soon as I got home from school and I realized there was a card missing, my OCD kicked in, and I had to go to the comic shop in Laplace. At the time it was Comic Cosmos, and get that one card.
Yeah.
And while I'm there, of course, well, why don't I get the books that these cards are based on? Why don't I learn more? How am I going to retain this knowledge and keep up if I don't keep following the stories? So in a nutshell, that's where the collecting kind of formed in my head.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the whole bullying aspect. The one of the funniest stories, and in hindsight, it's not very funny, but I think back on it, it's funny. Freshman year of high school, I walk into homeroom. I have a Superman coloring book, because back then I drew colored. I was big into comics and stuff at that point, and someone in homeroom stole the coloring book. Well, our homeroom was in the home ec room, so we've got nothing but stoves and ovens around us.
Oh wow.
Needless to say, the comic book ends up in an oven they got turned on. By second to last class that day, school had to be evacuated because
it caught fire.
It caught fire and almost lit up the home economics room.
Kids are jerks.
Yes, they are. But what's the origin of the toy store then?
So I've also been collecting for a long time. I also enjoyed selling toys since back in the 2000s when eBay first became a thing. I know that's the awful word in the toy industry, but a lot of us did get our start selling on eBay and following up on Toy Fair magazine and things like that. 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, Tim hooked me up with this guy who had some stuff that he wanted to sell, and he just didn't have the time to do it. So he's like, hey, would you mind selling this for me? You're going to be doing all the work, so you take a cut of the profits, you tell me what you want. And I was like, this might be kind of fun. So I did that. I did that year, and I did it real well. So well to the point that it was the first year that PayPal and eBay sent me a 1099K.
Wow.
And I had no idea that was going to happen. I'm like, you mean I got to pay taxes on all this nonsense? Now, thankfully, I do most things digital. So all my supply costs, all my mailing costs, trips to the post office, I was able to help offset that extra income because, to be honest, I didn't see much of it, though on paper it was mine.
Yeah.
It made me sit down and think. I really enjoyed doing this, but the problem with doing it with someone else's stuff is A, I get left holding the bag.
Yeah.
And B, I'm hampered by selling what they have. So if I tell you, hey, I'm going to sell your stuff for you, and you give me stuff that I'm not really interested in, I don't care about, I still have to do my best to make money on that and try to sell it. Sometimes that's difficult and frustrating because you've got people that I hate to say it, they will spend money on anything, and then when they want it gone, they just want it gone, and they don't understand, why can't you sell this? Well, there was one person in the world that wanted it, and you already have it.
Yeah. Like only you wanted it, and only you still want it.
Exactly. So, and this is around the time Toys R Us was going out of business. So I asked a couple of my close friends, like, hey, if I were to try and do this, would you want to get your toys through me? And they're like, yeah, sure. So it started with me creating an LLC, which is Omega Level Toys and Comix, which a friend of mine actually created the name, getting the logo created, which a buddy of mine created that, and then just getting started. And so I controlled what I was going to sell, and it started very grassroots. Just I was meeting people in parking lots. I was selling out of my trunk. I'd still do a little bit online. Facebook helped, and then shows. We started with the St. Tammany show. We've done 3 of those. We've done now all 3 showcase shows. Another thing I did was partner with local comic shops like BSI and at the time Showcase, and myself and some of the other vendors that are here, they would let us set up for a day, just kind of take over an open space in their shop and create this pop-up toy show. So doing all that is eventually what led me to the point where I had to either go all in or I had to pull the plug. And thankfully, and I'm not just plugging this because it's his show, but Tim Stoddard was a huge help with getting me into an actual brick and mortar location. And from then on, I mean, we were off to the races. We opened the brick and mortar March 1st, 2020. The country shut down March 13th, 2020. So I'm like, man, I got the worst luck in the world. I finally get a shop, and I open it in the worst economic year ever. But thankfully, we'd already built an online presence, so I spent that time, March, April, just selling either curbside or claim sales. We had a glut of 3.75-inch Star Wars Power of the Force Episode 1. Don't let anyone ever tell you there's no money in that, because there are people that still want that stuff. And those figures are what carried us through the phase 1 of the pandemic. When we were finally able to open, I'd gotten a nice wrestling collection and built this destination for wrestling figures, and that carried us through phase 2. We had a great Christmas, and this year I'm happy to say, number 1, we made it through the pandemic. We made it through COVID-19, and now we're in a bigger location in a better spot, and the customers love it. We're got new people coming into the shop every day. So I know that's I kind of, you asked me what time it was, and I told you how to make a clock. Yeah. Like Eric Bischoff would say. Yeah. But yeah, that's the genesis of it. I was selling for other people, and I was like, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to have the burden of responsibility, I might as well just be selling my own stuff.
So you said you kind of, in that transition as Toys R Us was disappearing, has that ultimately been kind of a blessing in disguise that those big box retailers aren't around to kind of muscle in on the small shops? So because I know
yes
when I look for Transformers, I mean, I can't find anything at Walmart. It's the closest big box to me.
So to your point, Toys R Us did a much better job because toys were their bread and butter. Walmart and Target in the initial like collapse of Toys R Us tried to step it up, but as you can see, it's not their priority, it's not their focus.
Yeah.
And I can tell you part of it. Number one, Walmart, Target, they don't care about your toy collection.
Nope.
They don't care if we have the action figure you want or not. And they look at things on a very 10,000 square foot level. And to give you a little bit of insight into the business, the average gross profit margin on a new toy is probably only about 25-30%, whereas the profit margin on produce is 50-60%. So if Walmart's like, we can allocate money to here, or we can allocate money to here, they're going to go with what's going to make them more in the long run. Part of that for me, like if I'm going to have a successful toy store, I've got to have those new items, even if I'm not going to make a ton of money on them. But something else we've become is kind of the destination for people to bring their old toys, their old collections that they're getting out of, and utilize those old toys as trade barter or to make a sale so they can divert their collecting interest into something else. And it helps both parties because it clears them up to move on to their next passion, and it gives me inventory so that I'm there to help that other collector that's just getting into these toys.
Yeah. So speaking of, you said you digital. I've sat in on quite a few of your claim sales, and you said that really helped during the pandemic. Now I've seen those kind of sales with like cards. Are you seeing the toy claim sales being just as big of a like a trend as a lot of like the other collectibles? I know the card breaks are a thing that I've seen other people do. Are those claim sales really pulling in like the business and the eyeballs?
So if you're going to be successful in doing any sort of sales right now, you've got to have multi-channel, you've got to leverage the internet, you've got to leverage social media. To answer your question, absolutely. There are still people that either through fear, because even though we've gone through the pandemic, of course, COVID-19 is still a thing, or just convenience. Like, I don't have to put on clothes and drive to the store and waste my gas and fight through traffic and do all this. I can just click and you'll send it to me. That's why Amazon is as successful as it is. And during the lockdown, when people were at home, I mean, they were getting stimulus money, they were getting extra unemployment and different benefits like that. Not everyone, but there was a lot of free money going around, and people needed something to occupy their mind. Toys, just like any other hobby, any other collecting, video games, any of that, it's a release from reality. It's your safe space, it's your happy place, and so I think a lot of people you're stuck at home, you can't leave, you need that outlet, and so more and more people were going online. Toy sales were going through the roof. You could see the companies have just put out product after product after product. You know, AEW wrestling figures, they're on wave 5 and they've got a whole new line coming out called Unmatched. Marvel Legends drops about 7 or 8 waves a year. Deluxes, store exclusives, Star Wars Black, Power Rangers, Transformers. I mean, just the amount of stuff that's out there just from Hasbro alone. And then you take into account NECA, Super 7, Mattel. You know, there is a lot of toys being made, but there's also a lot of toys being sold. And I do think online sales, claim sales, live sales. So the claim sales that I did during the pandemic were, I took pictures of everything and then I listed it, and here it is, it's $5. You want it, say claim, and then I tally up, send you an invoice at the end, we're done. What you're referring to is what Jonathan and I now do every Friday night at the shop, where we just go live and we're interacting with you. So I think that is more so where things are going. The claim sales where it's just a picture and you comment is one thing. People still do want that human interaction. They want to be able to talk with you and say, hey, you know, I want that, or maybe you take this, or the banter and the jokes. Even introverts that don't want to leave the house still want some sort of interaction.
And you said you became like a mecca for the wrestling collectors. That has really blown up. Those old LJNs and things like that. How to phrase this? How roundabout, I'll go, what is your crown jewel of those collections that you've had come in? Like, is there anything like from the wrestling, those old school, because those go for a pretty penny now. Like, is there like something massive like this? Like, I can't believe I got my hands on this.
There's been a few. So one of the ones I was fortunate enough to have was an AEW Jericho Wave 1 chase, which was about, at the time that I got it, it was about a $700 figure. I bought a collection of wrestling figures, and the guy had a suitcase, small red suitcase, and he's like, oh, I don't know if you're even going to want these or not. So the collection I was buying was all carded jacks, draft figures, a few classic superstars, but he had this suitcase. He's like, this is from my childhood. I don't know if you're even going to be interested. And he opens it up, and it's like that scene in Pulp Fiction
With the glowing, radiating suitcase.
It was about 60 loose Hasbros. Now, some of them were heavily played with, and he's a little bit younger, so at the time that he was collecting, he was a kid when the NWO was out, so everyone was a member of the NWO. He had some of these Hasbros wrapped in electrical tape, but I mean, there was an Owen Hart, there was a Yokozuna, there was multiple Hulk Hogan's, Ultimate Warriors, Ricky Steamboats, and for the most part intact with their pieces and accessories. I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely interested in that suitcase.
Yeah, because it's like you said, the pandemic things, like my Transformers collection completely exploded in the downtime. I probably had maybe, in grand total retail, $400 worth of War for Cybertrons at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's approaching like 25. Like, so almost everything almost every figure that comes out, with the exceptions of like the Titans and stuff that I just don't have room for. Yeah, you know, like I just went completely crazy with buying, and it's what it was. It was something to be able to like keep your mind focused. Like, it sucks outside, and just something to keep your mind focused. And I've been to your shop. It's a great shop. Do you see now that the restrictions are, is it becoming a kind of a gathering place like the old school comic shops were? It always kind of was. I had a core group of guys that were buying from me when I was, like I said, selling out of my car. In the first location, we were kind of tucked away in Slidell, so they brought friends there, and they helped spread mouth of word, or word of mouth of word, and they made it a destination. A lot of people that, you know, they always tell you when you do a Facebook deal or Craigslist deal, go somewhere public. Well, a lot of people would do that at my shop in the parking lot, right? And so then they'd come in and start talking to us about toys and things like that. Now, so with the new location, it's still happening. It's just a much more comfortable environment. It's a bigger spot. It's a little bit more spacious. I kind of inherited the last spot, and this one I picked and made it my own. It definitely feels like me in there, and something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid was own a toy store. And I worked for Toys R Us for 11 years till the day they shut down in Metairie. I was there on that last day. So to be able to provide that for the local collectors, and there's so many people that come in and say, wow, we didn't know that anyone still did anything like this, or that this existed. And another thing is when a child comes in and they're excited about a figure, you know, and they grab it off the rack and they're talking, and you know, we're adults and it's just kids buying toys. But think back, there was a point where we were in the toy store and we were that kid, and we think of Lionel Playworld, we think of Children's Palace, we think of Toys R Us, we think of KB. That kid is going to grow up one day and think of Omega Level Toys. And to me, like, it gets me a little emotional thinking about it, that I'm there to be able to provide memories that are happening in real time right in front of me. Yeah, that's, and we've been saying this all weekend when we were talking about like this. We were surprised at the amount of people that showed up for this, and this is like really one of the first allowed gatherings, really, without masks, you know, together indoors, and just the sheer amount of people who were just so happy to be out. And you talk about memories, like we've been dealing with little kids all weekend who've been running through, like they're gonna remember like that comic shop, that comic convention after we had to sit inside for all year.
Yeah.
And I do think, especially highlighting local businesses that do this, because everyone thinks of the big boxes, that nobody really thinks of, like that there's little mom and pop shops, as it would be called anymore. And it's great that we are in a version of the economy now that supports these small stores like yours, small stores like Tim's, like any of the other vendors here. Like that's a thing again.
Yeah.
Where you can just go to the strip mall and there's a comic shop and a toy store, and right by you, right next to a pet, like a massive pet store, like things you don't have to go run to like big boxes for anymore.
Yeah.
If you do want that interaction, and then you, like you said, you do online and in person, so people are really getting the best of both worlds with you. Because I as a Transformers collector, I know that the fandom's very highly upset with Amazon and Target for exclusives, but they can come to you and get stuff, and it's more of a personal relationship they can build with someone like you to get their stuff. And I think that's absolutely amazing that those kind of experiences exist again.
You're absolutely right. You can try to make friends with the people at Target, at Walmart. They're doing a job. If you come into our shop, I can tell you, if you're looking for the lowest price, it's not going to be us. I can't compete with Walmart in price. It just their sheer buying power dwarfs me being just one guy out in Slidell. And there's a lot of times where they get to the market before I do. So if you need to be the first kid on the block to have it, I can't always be that guy for you. But what we can do is we care about your hobby. We care about your collection. We care about that figure you're looking for. If you tell me, hey, can you order this? Sure, let me try. If you tell me, hey, I'm looking for this, I'll keep an eye out and I'll message you when I get it. Not just me, it's myself, my team, because all the guys that work with me themselves were dedicated collectors and still are in most respects before they started working at the store. So it's a much different experience than just going to Target and hoping they got the newest G.I. Joe classified. With us, we're going to actively try and find it for you. And to your point, build a relationship with our customers so that, you know, we can be that toy destination.
Yeah, so let everybody know where they can find you online, the address.
Okay, so we have the web store, which is omegaleveltoys.square.site. We have the Facebook page, which if you look Omega Level Toys and Comics, that's with an X, not a CS, you'll very easily find us. We're also on Instagram. All the new product that shows up gets posted to Facebook and Instagram first. And then our brick and mortar location is at 1354 Corporate Square Boulevard in Slidell, Louisiana, 70458. Open every day of the week except Monday at noon.
Sounds awesome. I will be over there. I know you have some Generation Selects over there that I need to catch my hands on.
I have. I don't even want to rattle them all off, but I can. I've got about 20 of them.
Yeah, I need to get a Hot Shot and
I have him.
Nightbird.
Got Nightbird.
So yeah, I need to come over and get some stuff. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, if I could just say anything else to the people watching, support local businesses, shop these small businesses, and anyone who came to Showcase Con 3.0, do yourself a favor. If you see Tim Stoddard, tell him thank you, because I don't think y'all know the amount of work, pressure, finances, and things that go into putting this on. And I can tell you this, Walmart, Target, they're not going to do this for you.
No, and Tim's been running around all day the last 2 days, and knowing the kind of things that go in the convention, he's been working behind the scenes longer than just this weekend to make sure all this is, and he's going to be working behind the scenes after we leave today to make sure that this was possible and any future event is possible.
This is the return, but this isn't the ending.
No. Thank you very much for being on, and I should be at the shop sometime this coming couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.